are you running? Why are you running?
Okay.
Joking. Thank you, baby,
You're welcome.
for this
Hi.
very high-class Jamaican Benylin.
Maggie and
Helps you with cough syrup, but also with helps you with erection issues.
What?
Right? Isn't this what they call it, strong back?
But
Or is that beer? Strong back.
it says strong back, but
Strong
we're
back.
not drinking it for that reason, though.
No, but it says medicinal.
Is it?
You don't know what you buy. The name tonic wine does not imply health-giving or medicinal properties.
Yeah.
Original Jamaican recipe. But then it says, enjoy responsibly. UK health.
No way does it say medicinal, babe. You're just tired. It's not
true.
medicinal.
It doesn't say it. They make it at the shard. What? It's Jamaican though. Anyway.
They make it where?
I don't know. Look, the address says the Shard, 32 London Bridge Street, London SE19SJ. Contains sulfites. That's gotta be healthy, right? We'll do it. It's all how. Okay.
Hi, welcome
everybody.
back to our podcast. How y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
Welcome to Why Are You Running?
Why are you running? Why are you running?
So today we're gonna be talking about a choice that we made not too long ago, but which we had been in the works for a while, which is homeschooling.
Yeah, we chose it.
We're going to talk about why we choose to do it,
Yes.
what factors played tremendous roles in influencing our decisions, and then we'll keep it brief with y'all. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
Huh.
What? I came here to the UK as a 6-year-old, and even then, I mean, coming from a place where everybody looks like you, then you come to the UK where your skin color is a problem. Even as a 6-year-old, I saw this, especially for boys.
This is 3 years before Stephen Lawrence, by the way.
Damn. Yeah, so not long after I got here and started school, I said to my mother, hey mum, when I get older, I'm going to have boys. Yes, I'm going to have boys, and when I do, I'm going to homeschool them because I don't like how my guy friends at school were being treated. It was just, I could see there was a difference. Cut to when we met, one of the first things we discussed, because I really think this is an important topic to discuss when you're considering marriage with anyone. Like, these are topics you need to talk about before you decide, like, you know, whether it's, you know, if you want kids, that is, like, what are your values? Yeah,
child rearing.
Exactly. What are your values? What are your wants and desires? And yeah, thrash it out. And that was one of the things I mentioned, was that I've always wanted to homeschool. I know in my heart that when we start having children, we're going to have boys, and I don't like the idea of raising my black kings in a school system that doesn't really favor them, not knowing that it would, you know, evolve even more to what we have now, which is the whole corona situation where really everyone is in a place where they have to homeschool. Like
to an extent.
To an extent. But we were doing it by choice. Do you want to?
Well, with me, my background is very different to hers. I went to school in, like, I don't know,
Botty boys schools?
maybe like 5 different schools in like 5 different countries, or 6 different countries. I don't even know. 5 schools in 6 countries. See calculation. 6 schools in 5 countries, something like that. So whether they were posh or not is not the point. And I was exposed to very good education, you know, very good education, you know, but still tied to the same Western system of education. I did GCSEs, I did international baccalaureates. I didn't do it, but I was supposed to. A levels, usual stuff, right?
You didn't do it?
No, I was said international baccalaureate. They offered it at my school, but I
Okay.
left and I did A levels instead.
Oh,
Point
yeah,
I'm
came
making
here.
is point I'm making is, I was groomed to be, I was groomed around people who who are doing really, really well, and had families that had a high status, you know, in West African society, Western society too. Anyway, long story short is, at some stage I became an educator myself. I've been an educator, teacher for the last 13 years. And I don't really, it's something I fell into by accident. And I found that using my creativity, I was able to give children knowledge that I wasn't able to get. So just to put it in context, I taught maths. GCSE, I think I got a C in maths. But I groomed kids to get maths A star. I had a 97% A star to C percentage pass rate for the first like 8 years that I taught. And I did it using creativity, and I taught in a school which is part-time. So effectively, these kids only learn 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then 1 hour on a Friday. So I was able to, and they do GCSEs a year early. So I saw already from that, you know, this whole, you need all these hours to pass the GCSEs. I immediately saw that that's slightly bogus.
Because you
right?
were, sorry to cut you,
Right.
you were adverse when I first mentioned homeschooling, when we first met, you weren't really up for it. Remember?
No. Look, let me. The plane has not even taken off. You want to land it?
No, I'm just.
Let me finish my point. So,
Sorry.
but she's right. She's right. I don't quite remember, but the key things for me were this. At some stage, I became what my brother Dr. Kambon at the University of Ghana calls, I started going through the process of re-Africanizing. Process of re-Africanizing is basically this. Every African person has an imaginary Caucasian in their head. And that's got nothing to do with, liking a particular musician. It's a psychological thing which has affected us from enslavement to colonialism to religion. It's just something we all have. Most of us don't even realize it. And most of us, even if we did realize it, don't really care to get rid of it. I got to a point where I was like, no, I want to get rid of it. And part of getting rid of it is disassociating yourself from a society which is really repressive to men that are black, women that are black, people who have hair like this and like that, people who have big bums, big lips, people who are loud when they talk. You know, we live in a society, whether we're in Africa, Caribbean, or wherever, because even in the Caribbean, when you go there on holiday, you don't really see black people on the beaches. When you go to the poshest places, West Africa, everybody's trying to be like a European, you know? So in the process of re-Africanizing myself, I realized, especially as I was having children, and we're very fortunate because this happened just as we were having children. I started to think about their future. We started to think about their future. And we started to think, what kind of people do we want them to be? And I think primarily we realized that we want them to be people who don't have to go through this process of re-Africanizing. Let them already feel African. And that's, I'm not saying we're doing an amazing job, but we're certainly going down that path of ensuring. So when we started with the schooling process, we didn't put our kids in a state school. We looked for a school that was African, all African teachers, black teachers. And we thought that was enough. Because here in the UK, our plan was always to move back at some stage to Africa. Time hadn't come yet. So we put them in a society, private school, where we said this is a place that would work for them. But again, without saying too much about the school, not everybody had gone through the process of re-Africanizing. So our oldest son, struggled. And we were adamant that homeschooling was always going to be the thing that would happen eventually. But we were in a place where we're still trying to figure out our careers. My wife had just started a new business. I was still trying to figure out how I can quit my job and move us back home. So there was so much going on. We had a very small kid, 2 years old. We're about to have another one. So it wasn't the right time. But we got to a stage where we realized he's not happy here. We need to homeschool him. We can do it, you know. But how do we do it without a set curriculum? And we started doing research. We did a lot of research. And I had two friends. One, my brother in Ghana, who has Abibi Fahodia. Is that the name of the school? Yeah. Abibi Fahodia. In Accra, yeah. Which used to be at the Lion House in Accra. It's moved now. And another friend who just opened a school called Key Academy in Lagos, which is effectively a school which I suppose tries to, I suppose that's more in line with, no, I wouldn't say unschooling, but it's more in line.
They go at the pace of the child.
They go at the pace of the child. And when I saw both people do, Abibi Fahodia existed before, but Key Academy, in Lagos, we were there really at the inception. We were talking about when I had met her when she was in the process of starting the school. And I contributed to a piece that they put on the school's website. And it made me do some research, a little bit more research than I had done previously. First of all, I already had known that the amount of hours, just from my own experience, I had already realized that the amount of hours that school system gives a child is not exactly what they need to pass the GCSEs. Ultimately, 8 GCSEs or 8 whatever exams that you do, you can pass those exams if you're dedicated and focused to have a decent teacher in 2 or 3 years, because that's exactly what I taught part-time for 3 to 4 years. And we did some research and we realized that a child's mental capacity to understand and take in information during the day at school is no more than about 2 or 3 hours. And they're at school from 9 till 3:30, some schools till 4. Then we also started looking at the people that we knew. And we started looking at the world and how it was evolving. Academics really is something which is not as, I don't want to say it's not useful. Certainly if you're doing law or medicine, things like that, which require tons and tons of information in order to get a job, by the way. It's not necessarily that you're an expert on it, it's just to get a job. Those things, yes, you can understand it to an extent. Everything else that's in between, you can almost do by experience. And as the world shifts to a more digital world, a more entrepreneurial world, people are, at least countries in the West are really looking at capturing children, young students who have advanced skills or advanced expertise in something, and putting them and fostering that, putting an infrastructure around them so that they could push that. And obviously that will eventually drive technology and so on. In fact, the old BBC building at White City has been converted to be used for young minds like that. So we're looking at the way the world works. We're thinking about ourselves and the kind of children that we want to have who don't have this issue of having to re-Africanize. And then we also thought about the amount of hours that schools put in and the psychological issues that children encounter at school. Yes, school is good because you make friends, but school is also a place where it's almost like baptism by fire. You go to school and on day one, you are stuck in this place with all these people. Some children take to it, some just won't. I personally, my schooling experience at primary school level was just, it was an experience like this.
You're just overwhelmed,
I was just like, what's going on? I'm the third kid. I'm the third child, and me and my siblings are literally like 2 years between all of us. So we're quite close in age. But you quickly find that certain things work for you. And then you find that there are subjects you like, but it's not cool. And the subjects that you don't like are the ones everybody is trying to do well in. And then we also looked at different societies, because one of the things we've talked about, one of the reasons why I thought I didn't really want homeschooling at the very beginning, or I didn't think about homeschooling, is because I thought, okay, my children at some stage will send them to boarding school in Africa. Because, they will at least get the kind of, when you talk about baptism by fire, there's baptism by flogging. So we thought, okay, that would be something that works for them. But then you even start looking at the education system, this cramming mindset that we have in Africa. This idea that literally, in order for you to pass the test, read everything that is written in your book and go and regurgitate that on the exam paper. That's what they call, they don't even call it studying, they call it reading. So I'm not studying for my exam, say I'm reading. In other words, they're copying and pasting and putting it on a piece of paper. That's why if you ask a Nigerian, like there's certain things, like you say, what's the definition of matter? Every single person has the exact same definition. Because I remember learning that same definition in primary school. So
Which is?
Anything that has space, occupies space, has weight and occupies space. Everybody says it like that. And this is 30 years ago.
I would like to be a terrorist.
No, but everybody knows. There's certain things that everybody knows. If you ask them a definition of a word, they'll give you the exact same Oxford terminology.
There's no creativity.
Right? No. So there's no room for, and you have to really question whether that's education or just preparation.
Memory.
Now, when you go back in time and study history and you understand the concept of the school system, up until really the 18th century, in the 19th century, school was really a thing for the wealthy. They would go and learn their Latin and their poetry and all that type of stuff. And then at some stage they decided we need to groom people to go and work for these people.
Capitalism.
Right? To this is the Industrial Revolution, to go and funnel this capitalist society and make sure we have the workers. So in other words, we'll give them enough education so they can read and write their name, so they can sign documents to say I work there. But ultimately, we're not going to give them the keys to be able to go and succeed and become the man or the woman.
Somewhere to dash their kids while they're working.
While they're working in the farm. That's why we have the school day running from September to summer, because that is the time when the farming period in Europe was not at its peak. Kids would go and pick the fruits and veg in the summertime. Anyway, that obviously came to Africa, and we literally thought that everything the Europeans brought to us was good. All right, at least we were forced to think that. And so we weighed up both things. Education that we get here, do we want to send them to a school where potentially they might lose their own culture, but also have to go through all the issues of, de-whitenizing, if you will, and then having to re-Africanize? Do we want to go through those issues? Or do we just want to keep them at home? And then just before the coronavirus happened, my wife and I faced a very tough decision. Do we pull him out of this school, which was African typically African in terms of every single student was black, all the teachers were black, really good head teacher, and good teachers even at nursery level. In fact, our youngest advanced a lot further than he needed to do.
When he started.
Was he two?
He was 2,
Yeah. So he was 2?
He was the youngest in the school, but he was already doing year one work.
He was already doing year one work. And we looked at his character and we thought, this kid in a normal school will probably be put on Ritalin to calm himself down, or be given some type of ADHD diagnosis. This is just how I work in the schools. I've filled out loads and loads of forms about kids who I've just said, he just needs a slap.
A slap. Or just some work to do.
And just to put it in context, school I teach in is an all-boys school. How you can last that long in an all-boys school means you have to have some type of prison warden mentality. So anyway, long story short, we saw all these things and we weighed it up and we're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Now's the time. Why wait till later? Now's the time.
Whoever gave you this idea, it's not a good idea. Good. Leave me.
If we're all really honest, right? some of us are in our mid-30s and just realizing what we actually really enjoy doing.
No, imagine
Let that sink in.
Imagine that.
What if we realize
So what did we do for those last 15 years that we were in our 20s?
What if you realize this and you look at this generation coming up? You're talking about what they're doing here with the British kids. They're trying to, the ones that are going into media. In Asia, they've been doing that. There's some 16, 15, even 14-year-old billionaires, who were just like, who have just been like, right, their parents have seen, okay, this child is good at this. Forget the noise.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, even as an adult, am I going to go and learn everything about everything? Absolutely not.
How much of the stuff that you learned at school do you even remember learning? Never mind, did you retain? You don't remember it. Once you write those, finish putting those exams down,
it's done.
You don't remember anything.
So it's just a rite of passage.
Literally, exactly. It's just, it's
it was not created for you. Like, unless, like you said, you're doing those perfect.
Yeah, but you just imagine if you were somebody who said, I know I want to go be a doctor.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what? From a young age, we're just going to stick you in biology, chemistry, or physics.
And you know what?
As opposed to wasting your time. You are big, you can't run, they put you in PE. For what?
Listen, I met a young girl, maybe she was about 12 or 13 when she was a client of my, a daughter of my client. And from the minute I met her, I think very early teens, she was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. Neither parent was a doctor. So where she got this from, hello? It's not a surprise. We've created all with purposes, yeah? So those parents trying to orchestrate the kids' lives, it's not up to you.
Yeah.
You got plans?
Yeah.
But anyway.
And this
let me finish.
Sorry, go on.
So she said it from very early on, and I'm very serious to you. No one in the family, even extended, are doctors. No one. As a 13-year-old, and she's now qualified, 20, oh my gosh, I'm expensive. She's in her 20s now. And best believe, this girl is a doctor and is loving every single moment of it.
Yeah.
I just see her and I'm like, you're exactly where you need to be. Not even want to be, where you need to be. Because your purpose, you realize it very early on. And thankfully, she was able to go forth and just excel and was pushed in that direction. Maybe because it was academic, it was easy for parents. Wonderful.
Doctor,
but then when it's like,
I want to be a game developer.
Yeah.
You said that in the 90s to your parents.
What? Which game?
Imagine
if the real engineer or founder of something like Facebook.
Yeah.
Was a Nigerian or even someone from Accra.
Everybody we try to do tech, yeah.
But imagine if somebody like that. I'm pretty sure there was somebody like that who had similar ideas, but was probably like, lie. That's not going to make me money.
How will I even start doing it? But let's just piggybacking off the point you just made, which is even when you talk about when you go up to university level. Most people, the thing that they did at university, again, unless you're doing like a focused course on again, medicine or engineering or whatever, very few people, I believe, are actually doing what they studied. And if they are unhappy, And we are talking about having children who, look at KSI, for example. KSI is my role model. I don't mean in that way, but KSI is a case study for African parents, both at home and abroad.
Yeah.
KSI started playing games and laughing at people on YouTube.
That guy's opinion.
Now he had a boxing match where he got paid pay-per-view boxing match. He had
boxing, which
he just learned 6 months before.
It's like, let me just do this thing.
He raps. He rapped his way into the ring.
Yeah, and he's got a new song.
He's done a collabo with Rick Ross.
Oh, really?
The guy is a multi-millionaire. Now, who would have thought it?
Not boxed in at all.
Because sometimes we are closed-minded and think that the world is not evolving around us. Like, people are always going to wear a suit and tie to work. Absolutely.
Hell,
not.
look at the world now, guys.
Right? And the truth of the matter is, if you realize this, especially when you see how quickly the world is moving, you need to think, even just on a normal intelligence level, common sense level, do I want my children to at least keep up with the world or keep up with my expectations of the world, right? And when you look at how today is TikTok, tomorrow is TalkTalk, next day is Phones for You, every single day there's a new one, right? If you want to keep up with the social media alone, you know, you can judge it from afar and say, oh, I don't do social media. But when you really focus, you see that people are making money from it, people are creating careers, and people are evolving from one career to the other.
Exactly.
Don't you want your children to have the opportunity to fail and say, or even say, oh, I tried that, I don't really want to do it, let me go try something else. As opposed to our parents' generation who got one career and stuck to that career until they retired.
That was the climate.
Yeah.
That was the climate.
That was the climate, yeah. But what I'm saying is we don't need to continue the same pattern. And so that is why we homeschool. And the truth is, I've heard so much in this lockdown, both everywhere in the world, people saying, oh my God, let the schools open up again. But all this time, forget all the time that you spend with your children to actually know their strengths and weaknesses in education. Forget the time that you get to spend one-on-one where you can actually ask them a question.
Yeah.
Why would you then want to send them back into a society or into an environment where A, they're far away from you, you go into that cycle of you don't see them until nighttime. You say, how was school? And you don't really listen to what they're saying.
What did you do at school? Nothing.
Right? And they're so tired, they can't even tell you. They were like, yeah, it was okay. Right? They don't tell you about when this girl told them, you know, your breath stinks. And that hurt them.
Or
you know,
your skin looks like poo.
Exactly.
Things like really
These
happen.
are things that really you get to form a relationship with your children. Now, I think last couple of minutes we need to talk about briefly what we do when we homeschool.
Yeah. So, of course, the kids are math whizzes because daddy, you know, has just, you know, it's in your soul. But I'm really impressed actually is how you taught them
Just even that,
maths,
right?
all these times tables, things like that. You know, so a 4-year-old, he was four, doing year 7 maths.
Yeah. But let's just say,
know.
let me just say this, because again, it's not that I'm a genius. It's just you have to approach things creatively. Children, if you trick a child into learning by making it fun, it'll stick to them. It'll stick in their mind.
And also noticing people's because we're still learning too. We're still making mistakes. But from the get-go, this kid was obsessed with numbers. So noticing there's a pattern here. He loves numbers. Yeah. Loves it.
But
and then obviously even though
I didn't even notice that. But I'm just saying, like, just even how they got over their times tables. Oh, it was literally from, you know, we would play the times tables at night on Spotify. We would make them repeat it over and over again, and nothing worked. And then all of a sudden we started saying, let's make this fun. So we do like a game show. We give them balls. They'll pick a times table out, and they have to give the answer. Land the ball in the basket. They get a point, and whoever wins gets to play video games. They love video games.
There you go. So there we go.
So make
maths, and then we got exercise.
Whereas you got exactly,
and then you also
target practice too.
Target practice, yeah.
And you're incentivizing them with something they love. School, you're telling a child 13, 14, 15, even 16 sometimes that your future is gonna be bright if you pass it. They don't give a damn. Talk less when they're much younger, 6, 7, 8 years. They don't care. What they do care about is what in the short term can I do that will incentivize me to do well right now. And our kids is video games. That's the dangling carrot. And I don't actually I think excessive video games is bad.
Terrible.
But certainly, children learn a lot. I played video games as a kid, big time. I don't think I anything happened to me, right? No, but the point is, I'm not really into them that much now. But the point is, it was a means to an end. It was an incentive. But I never really, the subject I loved at school, I always loved at school and did well regardless of whether I played video games or not. In our kids' case, we're really focusing on languages. We're focusing on languages. They learn our traditional language. They're learning to read and write. None of us could ever, even the thought of being able to write our language is,
even now,
our kids are learning to read and write. They have a tutor, pronunciation. They know a lot more about our language than we did at their age, I think. And still do.
Then we focus to be good at it.
Yeah, and then we focus on them, even with reading. We say to them, rather than trying to force them to read, Billy went down the hill, Jack saw him, and Forrest was unhappy. We make them read things that they're interested in as well. We do a little bit of the Billy stuff, but then we also say, read the back of the video game cover. What does it say? Right? Read the text. We play Monopoly with them. We play Monopoly with them. And most importantly, we play different games that allow them to exercise different parts of their brain. For a long, long time, even now, we play checkers. Our boys play checkers. My oldest son is 7. He beats me sometimes.
You're admitting it now.
Sometimes. Checkers and Connect 4, games like that allow them to think. You see, you don't want your child to be academically smart. You want them to have common sense, to be able to reason, to be able to be in a situation and say, okay, well, Sigmund Freud says in this situation I should do this. No, if the man has a gun in your face, Sigmund Freud doesn't matter. Dodge. Some people overcalculate, and that's a very primitive example.
But if that is what they...
But you know, common sense is far more valuable. Common sense is far more... Because if you don't know something, with common sense, you'll say, okay, let me learn about it before I make a decision. Whereas now, it's like, oh no, but I'm an expert. You see, and we're in the age of experts. You see, the Trump administration just... And that's why, and it's a good thing, because he said, well, I don't think you're right. People who have Donald Trump... You know, he used to go around saying, you know, when people were going to say that this happened, he'd be like, no, I don't think you're right. Say climate change is, you know, whatever. And he'll say whatever he wants. And you know what? Maybe he has a point there, because he's trying to show people that, look, just because you say you're an expert doesn't mean you're always right. Look how many things you get wrong. So, and again, experts are the ones that create this coronavirus pandemic. Experts are the ones who create these vaccines, which they said, this vaccine will cure you. And then tomorrow they say, there's a new variant and we're not sure if this vaccine will help. But people are still going and taking the jabs. So anyway, that's another story. How do we get here?
You like what they call quarantina. That is double quarantination. Quarantination, which is the extended value of quarantine plus nation equals quarantination.
To round up, I'd say the main reason is, or the key takeaway for me, as we're still, and for us, I guess, we're still learning this whole process. It's a learning game every day. I just know that, just take it back a little bit. I just know that when I was full-time in my business, I literally would cry every time I came home because I was exhausted and I'd missed so much of what was going on with my children. You know, my second born was 6 months on my hip and I'm painting walls. And then I have my third born, I went into labor on my shop floor. 2 days later, I was back there because I didn't have staff that were sharp enough to, you know, be there on their own. It was, you know, love them, but I had to be there. 2 days old, I'm breastfeeding and painting hair. What life is that? So obviously, in the opposite would be if you're still in corporate, some child minded. I mean, this is okay for those who like this, but somebody's raising your child, really?
I mean, look,
really, like
it's for you to decide. For us, that doesn't make sense.
It just
and I don't think there's anything wrong in if that's what you do. That's what you do. For me, it doesn't make sense for me to see my child that little in the space. Think about how much time you spent with them this year. That if your child is like 14 right now, this last year of lockdown, you've probably spent more time with them than you have in the previous 13 or 12 years or 11 years or however long it's been since they've been in school. Because the nursery, and when you talk about time, we're talking about quality time, daytime, not night time when it's brief around the dinner table. If you have a dinner table.
Don't get twisted. These kids, they wind us up.
You know, and it's not
They
easy.
wind
But we are getting to know them, and that is something which, you know what?
As people, because they are people. As
Yeah.
much as they are little people, they have their charisma from very early on.
Yeah.
And these are things that I would have missed this.
Yeah. And you can
Dirty
see
job am I doing that I would have missed the craziness of our children. It's fun, like it's
and you can
mad
see
and it's
the personalities,
stressful at times, but you know what? It's just so nice that, you know, like my parents always say, look, I want more for you
than I had.
And I think
That's what every parent wants.
That's what every parent wants. And you know that, and I don't think they meant money. And for me specifically, this quality time way outweighs any financial gain that I would have been trying to chase. Careers, they were, man, I don't even know how to say it, how much you can become anything at any time. But children, they only have one childhood. Let that sink in.
And it's very brief.
It's brief, y'all.
It's so brief.
They have one childhood, just like you. If you're real about it, think about your childhood. Why do I feel like we're trying to preach? But it's just, this is just how we feel.
It's the truth.
We're really passionate about it because people are like, girl, you homeschool out of choice? Yeah. And it's funny to people, but I'm like, why? But why would, have you met my kids?
But it's also important to say we don't follow...
And I want to homeschool them because they're just amazing to be around.
We don't follow a set curriculum either.
No.
We go off what they...
See what they...
We go off what they... So, for example, the other day, they asked about a family member. And we spent the whole week doing a family tree project. So they called their grandmothers, tried to find out, and then the grandmothers and grandfathers started digging to find out there. So they've gone back 6 generations.
I didn't know some of this stuff.
I found out because of my kids what my grandfather's name was, because he died.
And these are their questions. By the way, we're talking about 7, 5, and 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Asking questions that we didn't think about. Because why? Yeah. These things were probably this creativity. It's quickly like dulled at like an eraser.
Freedom to ask questions.
Yeah.
Freedom to ask questions is something which really in the school sector. I remember hearing who was the person that was saying they were in school. I think it was my godson was in school, and the teacher was teaching about citrus fruits, and he mentioned a citrus fruit. He said soursop. And the teacher was like, no, it's not one of them. And then the teacher's assistant, who was also there, was like, yes, it is. And she's like, oh, probably need to look into it. So I'm not downplaying the role of teachers, but teachers really are following a curriculum. This is what I do.
And it does frustrate quite a few teachers.
It doesn't mean they know everything. Yeah. You know, so just assuming that your child will be better off in school because he'll get more information is not true. YouTube is there. Google is there. It's true. You can I learned how to fix a toilet from YouTube. No plumbing school. Ask me to do it again. Ask me to do it again. I'll go back to the same YouTube video if it's still there.
Listen, I don't want to downplay what teachers do. Listen,
no, I'm a teacher, so I understand. Teachers,
they're there for specific kids.
The role of a teacher, and I'm sure teachers will tell you the same thing. The role of a teacher is to impart the curriculum in the students, but oftentimes they spend too much time dealing with discipline. This is a fact.
And paperwork.
Discipline, paperwork, and ensuring that the child's best interests are met rather than them actually imparting information. So it's you're in a lose-lose situation very oftentimes with teachers. And then on top of that, there are questions about the curriculum, which we won't go into now because we run out of time.
Yeah, unfortunately. I definitely value schools for especially for kids who don't have, they may not have, at home they may not have this amount, because our kids have a lot of support.
School, not everybody is going to be able to. This isn't for everybody. No. This is just why we homeschool.
Yeah, and for those questions, because I have a lot of people who question it, and I'm like, why don't you just try it? And now you've been forced to, but if you're thinking about it, just take the plunge, because even for me, knowing it from an early age, I still didn't know what it would entail because my idea of homeschooling has completely evolved. It's different. I didn't have a clue, but now as we learn daily, we've realized, we're more like unschooling. But anyway, that's a different topic in itself. But yeah, any last words?
Bye. No, I'm joking. No, thank you very much.
Thanks for
If you have
watching.
any points and you feel like mentioning them, hit us up.
Yeah.
If there's anything you want to know. And by the way, again, just a disclaimer, we are not criticizing you if you choose to go to school or if your circumstances are not like ours.
No,
We're just
or
saying
choose to
this
send
is
your kids
why
to school.
we go. This is why we choose to homeschool or keep our kids at home. Those are the reasons.
Get asked a lot.
So anyway, take care of yourself, guys.
And everyone else. And each other.
And each other.
And each other and everyone else. Peace.
Peace.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and share.
Yes, sir.
It's good to share.
Yes, sir.
Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.